Praise God. We bear witness that there is no God except the one God. There is no other gods or idols besides Him. In the last khutbah, we reached the conclusion that you do not really believe in God unless you know that He is doing everything. You make the initial decision. This is our role. We make a decision to be with God or not. And not means you be with Satan, because there is no other choice. You're either with God or with Satan. And this is the decision we have, where we have absolute freedom of choice. After that, you're either guided by God or messed up by Satan. But the ultimate doer of everything is God. And everything is happening in accordance with God's will. I want today to compare our priorities. I just remembered an idea. I have to write it down so I don't forget. I want to use the board here to illustrate something about priorities. Most people do not know who they are. We recognize now the human being as consisting of two entities. Just to make it very simple, the body and the soul. Okay. The body goes on for, let's be optimistic, about 100 years. And then it dies, becomes nothing. The soul is the real person, the real you. This is the real person right here. And it goes on for eternity. The body has requirements, and the soul has requirements. The body, now what I want to compare here is what we do for this entity and what we do for this entity. For this entity, people start with the infant. The infant is given milk and nourished, given shots, painful shots, and growing pains, and teething. And then they go to school. The body goes to school. You know, you have to go to school, right? If you want to be, there's a commercial on the radio and TV now by, what is the name of that comic cat? Garfield. He said, if you want to be a fat cat, go to school. Go to college, I think he said. So you go to school, and you take tests, and go through the homeworks, and the absence reports, and chastising from the parents and the teachers, and working very hard, studying. You know, school is not popular with most of us. You go through grade school, junior high school, then you go to high school and all the hard work involved in it, and you're so glad to graduate only to go into college. Then you're a freshman, and you study very hard and work, and you're very busy, you know, devoting a lot of effort and time and money to go to school. Because, why? Because this body, you want it to dress nicely, you have good clothes, and you want to buy a house, preferably in the foothills, with so many rooms and luxuries and carpets and drapes. This body wants that, and you work hard for that. You graduate from college and you apply for jobs. You go to the placement office and you stand in line for the interviewers, the people who interview you, and you are very polite to be interviewed. You want to be bright. You want to pretend to be bright. And you want to put on your best appearance and some sense of humor and intelligence, abilities. You know, you pretend to be perfect for the interview, and you get the job. And then you do a lousy job and you're fired. Then you're applying for other jobs and you're miserable. You know, all this is for the body, because the body wants clothes, housing, food. And we do all this work for the body. Now, what are they doing for the soul? The average person. Now, this is the real person. Now, after all this, the body dies, goes to dust, comes nothing. There was a person, this body would belong to a person called Rock Hudson. Remember that name? Rock Hudson. Okay, he died recently. This is why you still remember him. And Rock Hudson was a very successful person. Lots of money, fame, covers, magazine covers, on the front covers, TV, movies, wealth, Beverly Hills mansion. His body had a lot of fun. And he also broke God's law, as we know, and he died in humiliation. Now the real person, Rock Hudson, does exist. The real person. What did he do for this body, and what did he do for this? What did the fame and money and bring him? What was the value of the fame and the money that he accumulated? Remember George Liberace? The glitter, the suits that he was wearing, and the showmanship and the clapping, the people clapping for him, the performances he gave, and how many millions of dollars he made. But how much does he, the real person, have? At the end, the mortician was afraid to touch him because of the virus, AIDS virus. Rockefeller, any of them. So the body, people work very hard for this entity here. And what do they do for the soul? This is the question. What I'm trying to bring out is rearranging our priorities, or putting our priorities in perspective. What are we doing for the soul? What does the soul need? The soul needs worshiping God alone. This is the first step, because the soul is part of God in any way you want to look at it, because God said, I blew into Adam from my spirit. So the soul needs to worship God alone, and then it needs food, nutrition. The 5 daily meals, the 5 prayers are needed. You need fasting. People like Rock Hudson, for example, he put himself in the service of this body. He was serving this body. Whatever the body wants, he gave it. But he neglected himself. And if the soul was this size when he started, it is still this size now. Didn't grow. He didn't feed his soul. His priorities were mixed up. I'm using a real person as an example, because here's a person who attained fame and fortune. The conclusion from this is that anything that we do that is not developing our soul is a waste of time. If you do anything that has nothing to do with God, it's a waste of time. So when you wake up in the morning, until the end of the day, you ask yourself, am I doing this for God? Which is another word for feeding your soul. Because anything you do for God causes your soul to grow and develop. It is actually for yourself, for the real entity. So we have to rearrange our priorities, put them in perspective. How much of the day are you doing for the body, and how much are you doing for you? You went to school and suffered through examinations to have a good job. What did you do for you? By the way, the 100 years compared to infinity is 0.